In red, we see the current or incorrect sensor status, and in green, this is what we want to change. We want to change the 10 volt setting. So we want to change that from 120 centimeters to 200 centimeters. So in the quick start guide with the sensor, focus on activating the teach buttons. So the touch control buttons are currently deactivated, as they should be, but we need to activate them to change the settings. So power down the sensor and hold T1 and power cycle. That brings up a setting called touch control. Right now it's off, which it should be. We want to change that to on. So press one of the buttons, it goes to on. You can either wait 20 seconds, or I would like to just press T1 and T2 to get back to your main setting. The display is still set to off, which is right, but now we can actually reteach the sensor. So we're going to press and hold T1 and T2 like it says in the manual, the quick start guide, and it says Hello Pro. And the sensor I'm using here has a digital output, or D, but it also has the current voltage output as well. And so we're going to go press T1 and T2 where it says IU, so I for current and V for voltage. And 200 millimeters, that's correct. Now you'll notice a little dot moved over at the top there, and it's under centimeters. So now we're in centimeters instead of millimeters. And it's 120 centimeters. 1,200 millimeters. We don't want that. We want to go all the way to 200 millimeters, or sorry, 2,000 millimeters, or 200 centimeters. That is the max range of the sensor, so just press T2 until it maxes out. Press T1 and T2. Now here we can change the slope. Do you want 0 to 10 volts or 10 to 0 volts? We want 10 volts at the close range and 0 volts at the long range. And that's what the setting is. We don't need to change that. Press and hold T1 and T2 and you get back to normal operating mode. So now we have retaught the sensors to the right range. The display is still set to off, but we need to deactivate the buttons again. So let's do the same thing we did before. Turn the power off, press and hold T1, turn the power on. And now we're going to change the touch control to off. Press and hold T1 and T2. And now we have retaught the sensor. The display is still set to off, and we've deactivated the keypads. Now one of the things you can do to check, even with the keypad deactivated and the display off, you can press T1 at any time. And it'll come up and say parameters, P-A-R. And you can cycle through the parameters of the sensor. In this one I'm using in my hand here, the digital output is set for 130. There's a switching output, but we care about the current output, the analog output, the voltage output. And that is set for 200 millimeters and 200 centimeters with a falling slope, which is exactly what we want. So now the buttons are deactivated. I can't reteach it. I'm pressing T1 and T2 and nothing happens and the display is still off. So we have now set this to the desired and correct sensor status.